A tree falls in the forest, and no one is there to hear it. Does this make a sound? Philip pondered just his thought as the planning for his camping trip begun. The philosophical question popped into the conversation when the three friends decided where they wanted to spend their weekend away from home. Steve, Jeff, and Philip were all incredibly close friends throughout their adventurous childhood and into their adolescence as well. Steve was the lazy one out of the bunch and never really cared about school. Jeff was the slightly more intelligent one, but always had the tendency to worry over the little things. Philip, on the other hand, was the eldest and the wisest of the bunch. The camping trip was set in stone, and they went off to pack their things. Steve ran home to his luxurious three-story house to grab a few supplies for the trip. He didn't think that he would need much, just the odds and ends, twine, matches, and his New York Yankees baseball cap. Jeff went off to his parents' townhome that he still resided in and grabbed a medical kit, sleeping bag, and a flashlight and stuffed it all into his JanSport backpack that he'd had since freshman year of high school. Philip decided to grab a map, compass, hatchet, and some rope from his ranch-style home. After meeting back up at Philip's house, they set off for an adventure. So with the group fully prepared, their journey began with a leisurely walk across town to get to a forest just a few miles away. This walk didn't take long as the conversations carried them through the brisk hike. Conversing over the weather and the basic ups and downs of any individual's life, soon enough they reached the wooded area and walked in as confident hikers. "This isn't so bad," Steve announced to the group. "I could live out here for months." "Don't be ridiculous, you probably won't last the night," replied Philip with a sly remark. As they marched through the wilderness, they examined the magical essence that nature offered them. The glistening leaves from the morning dew, the crisp branches lying on the nature's floor, the chirps from several baby robins, desperately waiting for their mother to bring back a hearty worm. All these images distracted the boys from their path and left them stranded in the wilderness. "Where are we?" questioned Jeff. "I'm not really sure. We left the trail about 20 minutes ago," Philip replied, puzzled looking at the map. "Maybe we should just cancel the trip and find a way out." They all agreed and contemplated which path they should take, but a decision could not be made. "I think I remember which way we came," shouted Steve, although he wasn't paying attention to a single detail. "Wait, here's some moss," as Jeff gazed at a rock not too far ahead. "I think we should follow the smoke that's coming from over there," Philip encouraged to the group, but it was too late. They all decided to go their separate ways because they were confident that their way was the best way. Separation is not the best tactic when stranded in the wilderness, but they insisted it would be a good idea. Steve ran off as he tried to retrace his steps through the high grass and trees and branches. Jeff hiked through the woods looking for more traces of moss, and Philip set off following the heavy plume of smoke seen in the distant sky. There were many creatures that lived in these woods. Some were friendly, but others were not. Steve didn't seem to care, as always, and sprinted through the forest without even watching his step. One more twig snapped under his feet before he came to a halt. He was dumbfounded. When he came to face with the colossal-sized brown bear, Steve whipped out his pack of matches and ignited the petite flame. But it stood no chance against the monstrosity of the bear. The bear mauled the match out of his hand and swarmed Steve. Steve was outmatched. A few hours passed, but Jeff stayed on his way while peeking around every rock and tree trunk to find some more moss. He recalled from school that moss led to water. Water wasn't going to save Jeff, though. As he kept walking, he heard a splash. He scurried as fast as he could until he finally reached the water that he'd sought out for. He never imagined seeing something so magnificent become so irrelevant in a matter of seconds. Jeff tried to be as quiet as possible, but the crack of the branch caught the bear's attention. Jeff noticed that the bear was wearing Steve's Yankee hat, and he knew that was being faced with his doom as well. He withdrew his flashlight from his backpack, attempting to blind the bear, but it did no harm. Jeff was gone. Without knowing that he had just lost two of his best friends, Philip looked into the sky, following the heap of cloud smoke as he got closer. Philip never doubted his strategy to follow the smoke because he knew that would lead to civilization. An echo approached Philip with faint voices, but it was enough to make the hairs on the back of his neck stick straight up in the air. He knew that his wisdom would be useful in his survival, until he heard another noise. This noise came from right behind him. Twigs snapping and crisp leaves crackled as Philip realized that he was not alone. He turned around to see if Steve and Jeff had given up on their ways and decided to join him, but what he saw was neither of them. Sniffing the scent of Philip from a couple hundred yards away was a vast ball of fur wearing a Yankees hat while dragging along a JanSport backpack. Philip immediately realized that he would not make it out and had to avenge his friends. He gripped his hatchet and prepared. As he approached the map laying on the ground, he was struck on the head. Philip flung his compass at the back of the bear's head to lure him closer in. The bear turned and raged with anger and directed his focus at Philip. Flames grew in the bear's eyes as he tore through the bush and darted at the hiker standing with the rope in his hand. With one quick tug, Philip heaved the towering tree down that he had previously cut with his hatchet and conquered the predator. Philip gazed at the hat and backpack lying at his feet, which were hurled from the bear's dead corpse. Philip dropped to his knees with tears filling in his eyes, and he grasped his best friend's belonging. He brought himself to his feet and sluggishly walked towards a construction site that the machinery smoke and working voices were coming from. Philip protruded from the forest with a baseball cap hallowed around his head, a backpack strapped to his side, and a hatchet gripped in his hand. Alive.